consider this as a rare honor and privilege to introduce Dr. Tissa Jinasena. Who is he? I associated him for the last, from the year 2000, of course, since I started to work in the rubber cluster. So it's almost 14 years association. So I'll very briefly put to you in a few words what I think of him, how I see him. He may be seen by different people from different perspectives. The people who work with him, people who associate with him. Okay? My association with Dr. Jinasena was in a different class. I was a rubber cluster coordinator and I did some projects with him. So he was there to work with me, to support me. So based on that experience, I will explain him from my perspective, what I saw in him. Undoubtedly, he is a brilliant intellectual and he has academic credentials to that. All his degrees are degrees from overseas universities. His the undergraduate degree and the masters and all that, except the honorary doctorate he received from the University of Ruhuna for the unique excellent service he performed for the Sri Lanka's manufacturing and engineering sectors. So University of Ruhuna recognized his services as unique that he did for the manufacturing and industrial sector. That is one side. Then if you look at his great achievements, he established the Lodestar in 1984 and started work as director, taking it forward. And by 2006 he became the Chief Executive Officer, and now 2014. And you know the achievement. Lodestar is the world's #1 in solid style manufacturing. He is branched into other different areas, now amalgamated with big foreign conglomerate company. So it's a success story. And as Sri Lankans, especially dealing with the rubber industry, I mean, that's a name we put forward. What is Sri Lanka's rubber industry? Oh, Lodestar. We are the #1 solid tire manufacturer. See the greatest achievement. And he spearheaded that achievement. And you can understand the importance of that achievement. And also, he is the one of the founder members of NANCO, National Nanotechnology Institute. You know what it's going to do? It's a very big institute. It's going to set up its own campus, and it will be a path-breaking initiative. So he is one of the founder members. And also, from my own knowledge, I can say that he is also a pioneering supporter or a protagonist of the famous Monoragala rubber project. Why this is important? It speaks volumes of his vision. In the year 2000, when we started to conceptualize the Monoragala project, in Sri Lanka, the vast majority, including the policymakers, politicians, industry leaders, including the chairman of the Planters Association, said rubber is a sunset industry. We do not want to invest. The Prime Minister said, remove all the rubber trees, put them into firewood. So he encouraged MDF factory to come to Sri Lanka, and he gave special concessions like power even today at 250 per kilowatt hour. Why? They believed rubber is a sunset industry. People wanted to go out of rubber. If the trend continued, that thinking, the policy, lack of investment, what would have been the position today? I don't think we would produce even 40,000 tons of rubber. Now, of course, last year we produced 130,000 Nissan. So, in that context, he believed that the Monoragala is a project that worth supporting. So, he is one of the persons who was behind me supporting the project all the way, which turned the tide. It totally turned the tide, and everyone began to believe rubber must be grown. It's important that we need rubber. So that set the trend. So I consider him as a visionary because he had the vision to see very far.
I think it's time for new SMEs, Doctor.
Yeah.
You should recollect that Mr. Pringers, who is our co-owner, or was the co-owner of Lodestar, came from Bergenon. He was factory manager Bergenon. And then he decided to go on his own. And from that sprang good factory. One thing I want is for this to be an interactive session. I just don't want to present all sorts of things to you, and then it must be that you must absorb my knowledge, whatever I have, of working 40 years in Sri Lanka, 25 of it in Lodestar. We created a different style of factory, a different way of looking at things, a different way of working. So I'll explain that, as Lakna said. Very happy to share that with you. I think some people have worked at Lodestar also. Very happy to share this with you. And as Lakna said, see if you can take something away from this. So I will bore you a little bit with history and then get on to some of the other current issues. This is my grandfather. Came from a very poor family. Went to the Ceylon Government Railway as an apprentice. Became a technician. Then worked in Sri Lanka. Then went abroad. He went to England after that. I don't know how. We are not quite sure how he went to England. Because I don't know whether he knew. He wouldn't have known English when he started. But certainly he must have learned some English. He went there and then he obtained his what we call the AMI Meki, which is the qualification that all engineers had to have at that time. So he became one of the first Sri Lankan or Ceylonese engineers. He started repairing sewing machines and motorcycles in bicycles in 1905. Then he started manufacturing tea, rubber, coconut processing machines in 1926. And also he was associated in many restoration activities, because that is a time when the Sri Lankan people were raising their head as a nation which was under the colonial rule. So this is the workshop of my grandfather as it used to be. This is a shot of the Kipala where we milk the iron. So it's very old photographs, very old technology. That's how it started. And these are some of the restoration work that he was involved in. Ruanral Saya, Sima Bodhiya, Kirivera, Tissa Maharama. This one here on the gate at the Tissa Maharama temple, you will see that Tissa Jinasena, 1926 I think. Seravilla also. And then you come to my father. He produced the press pump in 1952. In Sri Lanka in 1952 there was no manufacturing industry. Even the ice cream came from abroad. There was no even a Ministry of Industries, nothing. So I think it was a very bold step to set up pump manufacturing in Sri Lanka in 1952. He also had a deep passion for motor racing. At that time the motor racing in Sri Lanka was dominated by the Europeans. The Sri Lankans were not permitted or looked down upon. So he went and made his own car. The Europeans went and brought cars from abroad. He made his own car and he raced it and beat them. So this is the kind of spirit that we have been brought up in. Other interesting thing is that he spent the last 15 years of his life educating the four of us, the four sons. All four of us went abroad for education. It was a 15-year span. Sometimes one, sometimes two of us were abroad. And I think a lot of his effort went into producing the money to keep us there. So I think that was a He said it was an investment. We also thought it was an investment, because what he said is that I can give you money, I can give you houses and everything else, but those can all go. But whatever knowledge you take, that is the only thing that will last your lifetime. Okay? And it's very true. Okay? The knowledge that he got is much more important than any of the other things that he got. Okay? This is some of the landmark events. This is my father. You can see he believed in working with his hands. Right? This is the casting factory, 1970. He bought 21 acres of land in Ekala. When my mother went and looked at the land and said, ask him, where is the land? He said, it's under the water, but there is land there. So we filled it. He didn't have money to buy good land, so he bought marsh land, filled it. Now it's all 25 acres is fully built with factories. So that is the vision. Okay, this is the first pump that he made in 1952. Again, second generation pumps, and this is him racing. This is because the Britisher at that time was a chap called Roger Davis. He went to England and ordered and brought a racing car, a Riley racing car. And so to meet that, he went and took a MG, part of the MG, cut a MG, got an engine from a Lee Francis. It's a supercharged engine. At that time, it was timed at over 120 miles an hour. I think with these small wheels and this kind of mechanical brakes, doing 120 miles an hour is not a joke. So that's it. Okay. Then you come to the four of us. All four of us were educated abroad. That is what he invested in. So I think that is interesting, right? And this is myself. Okay. From there, in another matter of 25 years, we built up a lot of companies. Some of them are there, some of them are not there. But this is what the four of us did, and this is the justification for what he spent in educating us. Okay. And in this 1978 to 85 period, we developed many new pumps. This was also the era of post opening up of the industry, economy, right? So we had to change a lot, and there are a lot of innovative work happening at that point. We came up with pumps to meet the new pumps that came in under the new economy, the open economy. Okay. Right. Then this is me. Went to St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia. All four of us went to St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia. Next. Then to Loughborough University for engineering. All four of us went to Loughborough. To Reading University to do agricultural engineering, which was my interest. And then I also went on later on. Next one. Harvard Business School. Okay. Right. One of the first things I did was to set up the motor factory, which we started building electric motors in Sri Lanka. That was in 1973. This factory is still running, right? And then I went on to do agricultural machinery. Some of you might be familiar with this Agrimec. This is a machine that I developed. Developing this is very interesting because you have to be on the field, you have to work in the field. And harvesting happens in the night, especially in the NCP. So many nights spent in the counter, looking at machines, seeing how they work. So this Agrimec was one of the first things we did, right? Then we did the reaper. Then we did two-wheel tractors. This was quite successful till the government took the duty of finished tractors and kept the duty on components, which killed the manufacturing industry. And also I was working on combines. 83, you will realize it's over 30 years ago. So I was working on agricultural machinery at that time, but I moved away from agricultural machinery for one reason, which is that the farmer didn't have money to buy the machines I was making. That was the time when we had a guaranteed price was quite low. So the company decided we need to go away from the local market, look at export market. So, that was the changing point. Lodestar was 1984. It is a combination of Jinasena Group and Solidil. Solidil is a company which was formed by 3 gentlemen who came from Bergedon. Bergedon was a company which was set up here, I think in the early 80s for solid rubber tires, and Mr. Prinjas was working there, and 3 people who were working in Bergedon moved out. One was Mr. Prinjas on the technical side, one was Mr. Philip Daniels, who was in marketing. So, he set up the marketing check network, Mr. Prinjas with me set up the manufacturing here, right. So, it is a joint venture. We were designing and building our own machines. So, right from the inception, the first machines we made, we designed and built our own machines, which was a big advantage. Next. Where do our products go? Solid tires, forklifts, usual things, air tires, including construction. We do also the rims and wheels, rubberized stacks for agriculture as well for construction. Factories, we started off with Ekala 1984. This is the old Lambretta workshop which we bought, and that is where we started 1984. From there we filled up the factory. We filled up about 4 acres of site with factories. Then we moved on to Kottagoda. From there 92, then we went on Midigama, that is down south. 1999, we started manufacturing our own steel bands in 1985, Ekala wheel plant in 94, Kyoto is in 2002. Kyoto was the factory we bought from China, from Japan. We went to Japan, bought a complete factory and brought it to Sri Lanka. That is quite an experience, that one, because basically nobody had done that kind of factory translocation before, and even the Japanese are saying you might be able to take this out, but you will never put it back together again. But we did it without a single Japanese engineer. It was our engineers who did it. So, that is part of the Lodestar thing. I remember when we went to take this factory off, Mr. Prinjas and I walked around this huge Japanese factory, and he asked me, what do you say? So, I said, we have never refused a challenge. So, we took it, and this was in 2002. That was, you will recall, after 9/11, when again the world economy dropped, but we still decided to go ahead. So, this is the Kyoto plant for the rims, right. Then this is the casting plant 2007, where we do our own metal pieces, and the Ekala Tire Division 2, which is in 2008. We consume about 60% of Sri Lanka sheet rubber, RSS. Doctor, I don't know, I think Mr. Disanaka, that is about right? I think it is about right. Huh? And where we are today, I have stopped this presentation at 2010 now, because there have been changes since 2010. We are the world's largest solid tire manufacturer, we still are. And these are the brands we sell under, and these are our OEM customers. You will see it is Toyota, JCB, Nissan, all the top OEMs are there. And these are the construction, John Deere, Bobcat, JCB, all the case, New Holland. So, we are supplying all the top OEMs, and those who supply OEMs will know how strict the standards are. Okay. Any questions up to this point? Okay. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so what makes you go for the rubber? So you started with agri machinery.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, what makes you go for rubber?
Ah, that is interesting. That I think is fate, I think. What happened was that we had a garment factory, and the factory manager,